Hello everyone, that's a quick guide of how to install Nucular kit on Talaria. Set the video on pause if you need to. I recommend to have these types of hex wrenches. For this assembly I'm gonna use impact wrench to make the things quicker. First of all, remove the front fender by unscrewing these 3 screws. If you haven't done this yet, remove the battery from the bike. Unplug the connector and pull the battery out. One more thing, we need to discharge controller for safety. Get your key and turn it. The light may turn on for a second and fade, that means controller discharged. Let's remove stock Talaria display. You can find cable under cover of front lights. Grab the cable and put connectors apart. Now you need to unscrew the mount of the display. Remove the screws and pull this mount away from the handlebar. To unscrew controller, you need to remove 4 screws. 2 screws on the one side and 2 more screws on the other side. Gently pull controller away. Try to don't break the wires. You also need to remove the plastic cover around the horn. There is only 3 screws holding it. Now when the cover is removed, you can pull the wire and disconnect signal connectors. Also you need to unscrew all power cables and phase cables. This is how it should look like when everything removed that we don't need. Now you need to remove the ignition key holder. Unscrew 2 screws on the top of it. Open the battery cover and pull the plastic part away. This need to install CAN cable. It's a long cable going from controller to the display. Put the wire with the big socket in the battery hole under ignition key. This side goes to the controller. You can find a little hole next to the circuit breaker on the left side. You can put the cable right there. When you put it through, pull the cable down. Now connect signal wires that comes with Nucular kit for Talaria. Make sure little plastic locks on the connectors are locked in. Hide connectors in the top area of the bike and put the wires on the left side as shown on the video. We need to remove this bottom adapter, it's not needed for assembly. Unscrew these 2 screws on the one adapter and 2 more screws on the other side. On the top adapter you only need to remove 1 bottom screw. We need this adapter to hold the plastic later. Remove the screws on the left and the right side of the bike. Let's install the display. To do that, we need to remove the top cap from the stem. Also, you may need to loosen stem screws to let this cap go off. Get the kit for the display. We need to install top cap adapter first. Tighten it nicely, but don't overdo it. You can tighten stem screws after you install the cap. Make sure the both screws are tightened up. For the Talaria you will need a plastic extension adapter. Install this extension and tighten the screw. To make the cabling looks nice, you can hide it under the top fork crown. Just like shown on the video, you can pull the cable through there and after that you can install it on the display. I prefer to use the 3rd slot on the display cover. Install the cover, tighten the display screws. The 3 screws at the bottom are small and 2 long screws goes to the top. If you put the screws wrong way, you will be not able to tighten the plastic part. Now install the display on the adapter and put the screw inside of it. Tighten the screw so the display holds firmly. Now you can put back ignition key plastic part. Align the wires so they will not get clamped. Grab the screws and put them back and tighten them. When you finish the installation of the ignition key, make sure there's enough length for CAN wire to freely rotate front wheel. Avoid tension on the cable, it should be free. Now you need Talaria adapter and the screws for it. Put the wires through the big hole. We want to locate top mounting points at the bottom of the original mounting adapter. Make sure that the hydraulic line is located outside of the adapter, like shown on the video. It should be placed then in this little cut area on the adapter. Top plastic flanges go between original Talaria adapters. For the top flanges you will need short screws with washers. Install screws like that, but don't tighten them. For the bottom plastic flanges you will need long screws with spacers. Install the spacer first and put the screws through it. Same as before, keep the screws a bit loose, tighten them later. Install the other side screws same way as you did before. Now we need to install a little plastic part on the top. Make sure the hydraulic line didn't get clamped. Now you can tighten screws of the horn plastic part. When this part installation is complete, you can push adapter into the frame, so it sits nice and firmly. Tighten the screws of the adapter using the hex wrench included in the kit. On the top side it could be a little bit tricky. In case if you got 3D printed adapter, don't over tighten the screws, be gentle. 3D printed adapters are a little bit more fragile than ABS plastic. Now we can connect controller cables. First start with CAN cable, plug it into CAN socket. Next cable is throttle brake at the inputs cable. Throttle brake located on the left side and inputs on the right side. And the last cable is a whole cable. You need to connect it in the last free socket in the controller. When you finished with the signal cables, connect battery minus. Tighten the screw using included short hex wrench. Don't use long hex wrenches as you can break controller with those. I recommend to have a red cable going under the black cable. It is not correctly shown on the video, it will be easy to install later. I'm gonna use dynamometric torque wrench to check the torque of the screws. If you have it, you can set up it for 6 Nm to tighten the screws, like shown on the video. You may not have dynamometric torque wrench, that's why you should use short hex wrenches to tighten these screws. It will be hard to over tighten them. Put the battery cover on the controller and fit 2 tiny screws on it. Now you can put controller inside the cover. Make sure wires don't get clamped while installation. You don't need to screw phase wires right now, just install it as shown on the video. To secure controller on the plastic adapter, install these 4 screws. First you need to put them on without tightening. After you put all the screws on, tighten them one by one. For the 3D printed adapters, be careful, don't over tighten them. After the controller is installed on the adapter, you can connect phase cables. Use screws with washers to connect them. There is always one phase cable that's longer than the others, it goes to the middle. You can check these colors as shown in the video, it may work too for you, but if it's not, find the cable that's longest one and put it in the middle, and the other 2 put them on the sides. Face wire cover installation is optional, but could be very tricky, so I skipped this part. Now you can install the battery on the bike. Plug the power cable in and flip the switch. Controller should turn on. Now we need to make a quick setup of the bike. Go to devices, Nucular controller, after setup, and we will need full setup. But before that, you should lift your bike wheel on the stand and make sure the wheel doesn't touch the ground. After that, you can run full setup. Since there is no analog brake connected to the controller, it says error on there. But the throttle is working, so you need to press it and release it. After that, motor will start spinning. It is gonna spin several times to detect the motor. After the angle correction is complete, you can put bike down on the floor. It will run motor LR detection. Don't worry about these noises, this is completely fine. And there you go, the basic setup is complete. Save the settings after that. Oh, and one more thing, you may want to check the extra parameters of the controller and make sure that disable button is set to switch. It is needed to make the ignition key switch disable controller. Save settings if you have changed that parameter. At this point, setup is done. Remove your kickstand and you can check the work of the speed mode switch. It is configured to the button of the throttle. Oh, and the last thing, you may also want to put the front fender back on the bike. This is the end of the video. If you have more questions, you can ask them in Telegram group or in the chat on the website. Also, in case if you missing default Talaria configuration, you can download configuration file from documentation website. All links in the description of the video. Have fun riding!